Welcome to Switching Reels, everyone. Today we watched Seven.
Yep. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Trenton. Let's get
You have
this.
a wife, Connor.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Let's get this out of the way. Without any.
Yeah, this is recommendations. So
No. We're not going there. I'm trying to get a read on you because again, we don't talk too much about these before the podcast.
Yeah.
What were your feelings on this movie? Just
out of the gate.
out of the gate. Yep.
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Really, the only really iffy parts were the ones dealing with either very intimate relationships or sex, and those were the weird pieces.
Those
for me.
those are by far the hardest.
Yeah.
And we won't get too in depth here, but I will say I also think I may have over prepared you for this movie of just telling you how disturbing it was.
Yeah. It's not it isn't Schindler's List level of make me upset.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
But it's up there, It's a different kind, one of them was history, it actually happened.
Yeah.
Which we had talked a little bit about beforehand. Yeah. This one was an imagining, and I'm looking forward to going and talking about how all of that goes.
All right. Awesome. So this one sounds like it's not quite as negative as...
No, not quite as negative as...
Maybe I was getting a read.
I do like to be dramatic.
That's fair.
If you have noticed.
I also like to be dramatic, mostly in different ways.
Exactly. They are substantially different. There might be some more cursing than regular in this movie just because of the content here. So lots of triggering here. If this is any sort Schindler's List was triggering from a history perspective. Yeah. This one just has a lot of content that isn't safe for work.
Yeah, that's completely fair. It's funny you say that. There are a lot of these films that I watched while I was at jobs that were pretty lax as far as
that's really funny actually.
As far as how I had to budget my time. So it would be, I got all of my work done and then, watch a movie for a little while.
Yeah, there you go.
So I watched a lot of these movies at work.
That's fantastic.
So we'll get into the beginning of our normal questions.
Let's do this.
Recommendations.
No one. You don't need to watch this movie. Maybe if you're going to film school, because it does do some really cool stuff thematically, but and I'm going to get into this a little bit more. Most things were predictable, and then the content that was inside of it was, and maybe this is just because I didn't like the content. That's very much a thing fair. Here. This could be one of those times where stronger emotional reactions that I have towards things than potentially you or other people have really detracts me from the film. So
that's fair.
That please take this with a grain of salt, and Connor is also going to be a really, really good resource on this one.
As the I suppose resident desensitized person, I would say I'd recommend this to honestly anyone that's interested in watching a really well done crime film.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I think it's incredibly well done. I think I would also say if you're interested in a movie that explores the themes of morality in a way that I don't think I've seen a lot of other films really tackle, I'd say that's also a really good place to, or a person that I would recommend this to. That said, go into this with sort of an iron stomach,
which will be removed. Anyway, sorry.
So, second question on the list: does it deserve its place on the IMDb Top 250?
It should be on the list, maybe top 100. I think this one's 18 or something, 17, 19. Is it 19? Perfect. I don't know if it's top 20 material. Again, I'm going to have to see some more things down the list. It is really well done. Technically, very well executed. The actors are fantastic. Every characterization is great. Execution is really, really well done. I just don't like it. So
that's fair.
Top 100, but not top 20.
So I would say wholeheartedly it deserves its place on the list.
That's awesome.
And again, this is coming from a place of someone who's I've watched a lot of films, and a lot of them are either more poorly handled or more, I'd say, gratuitous.
Yeah.
Because this movie, while it is very intense and there are a lot of like really rough scenes and that kind of thing, it's handled in a pretty, I would say, reserved way, which I think we can both appreciate.
Very much so. Yeah, it is much more reserved than it could have been.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these things that you could have seen.
Well, and I think the fact that this isn't really a spoiler, I guess. I'm going to say it. I think the fact that most of these murders take place off screen is a really big part of it.
Point, actually. Yeah. It's just the setup of the murders.
It's
so there's one murder that happens on screen.
Yes. And that is a major spoiler. So we're going to give our rating.
Yeah, let's go ratings. Start?
So yeah, for me, this might be a technical 10. And for enjoyment, that's probably a 9 for me.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense from what I've been hearing from you so far.
Yeah.
I think my enjoyment is a 5. Pretty average.
Okay.
I don't think I've given anything a 5 yet, though, so it's not average.
Yeah.
But I do think that technical is a 9 or a 10. Like it is. It obviously did its job well.
Yeah.
Because I don't like it. And everyone did their jobs really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, my enjoyment is just a lot lower on this one.
Okay, that's completely fair. So this is where we go behind the spoiler wall.
If you like us, tell us that you like us.
Yeah.
We need validation. By we, I mean at least me.
Me too.
Okay, good. We need validation.
Yes.
Please let us know what you do and don't like. Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. All 3 of them. Even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to subscribe.
Do it.
And you
I'll just watch this movie for you.
Or are uninterested in talking to us, please do all 3.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right. We are past our spoiler warning. Summary of the movie. I think I can tackle this.
Do this one.
Yeah.
I'll still do one. But.
So, new detective meets up with a detective that's about to leave the force. They're put on one last or first case together, and it is of a murderer who is killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. We find out that this guy actually has only killed 5 people and is planning the last 2 to be himself and one of the detectives, who he goads by cutting off the detective's wife's head and shipping it to the place that they are going to be in a box.
That amount of silence is absolutely warranted, because that is absolutely accurate. This is the story of 2 detectives that get in way over their head somewhere that's absolutely not New York. And
absolutely not.
Absolutely not New York. And the one guy, pretty fresh, not too fresh, but fresh into his career, one really old guy who really just wants to leave. And neither of them can, because this serial killer really just messes up their lives in many different ways. And so they try and catch him, and they do, to everyone's detriment.
Fair enough.
Everyone's.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over this. So, lots of really cool thoughts and discussion in this movie.
Yes,
for sure. Mm-hmm. There is the conversation on, primarily, the main things I was getting is there's a very large focus on apathy and how can we stop people from being apathetic.
Yeah.
And one side is you can't. I'm going to give up. The other side is fuck it. I'm going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And make a point.
Yeah. I think there is a third side.
Yeah.
And that's the one that Mills is on.
Okay.
Mills thinks that you don't have to be apathetic, and the solution to apathy is to essentially ignore the fact that people are being apathetic and just do your work and do it as best as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
And try to change things.
The focus on your personal choice.
I would say apathy is a large part of it, but I think the bigger focus is the how do you deal with an evil world, right? And so there are two solutions that are, I've actually never thought of it this way. The two solutions that are initially proposed are Mills and Somerset's, which is you try to fix it, or you give up and just give in to apathy. And then John Doe is actually reacting to Somerset's point of view and saying people are all apathetic, and in order to get them over to Mills' point of view, you have to hit them with a sledgehammer.
Oh, interesting.
And basically do horrible things in order to get people to pay attention to the apathy that they're feeling.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I like that a lot. So, John Doe does agree with the guy that kills him in the end.
Mills, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what has always been really interesting to me, and this can kind of go under our standout scenes, is the car ride.
Mm-hmm.
I love honestly, the car ride. Yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Yeah, it was one of the best scenes I've seen.
I think I've watched this movie probably 5 or 6 times. I think every time I've watched it, I've had a different perspective on the car ride scene. Mm-hmm. Going from essentially John Doe's right to the dude's absolutely insane to he's out of line, but he's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes this so interesting to me is it is a movie that has sort of this, and I think I've kind of come to the conclusion that John Doe is right, but he shouldn't be. Right? So
yeah, I think as it ends justifies the means thing here.
Yeah.
Because there's the extremity that he goes to go and show it.
Mm-hmm. I
don't think you need to do.
Yeah, and I agree. The hard part is, I think, watching from the perspective of a person in the audience, mm-hmm. right? And you go, if most of us are honest with ourselves, we are pretty apathetic to a lot of the evil in the world.
Completely. Actually, high key was on William's side, for sure.
Yeah. Just be apathetic? Because it's...
Yeah. No, okay. It's a combination of both. There's a certain extent that the fact that you cannot change anyone but yourself gets overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And the two solutions to that are through therapy and whatever other means. Understand that, hey, changing yourself is the best way of going and changing other people. Mm-hmm. And so you acting non-apathetic and going and doing your best to be a Mills, but a little maybe less angry, is the way to go and enact change in the world. Or do something drastic. Drastic things, though, I completely agree with Mills, don't last. Yeah. Humans aren't made to remember drastic things.
Yeah.
Like, in a few, like, even if everyone in your generation remembers.
Yeah.
That legacy is lost.
Well, I mean, how many of us actually remember, like, for example, when Pearl Harbor Day comes along, how many of us are actually thinking, "Oh, it's Pearl Harbor Day"?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, like, and that was huge.
That was absolutely huge. I'm almost getting to that point with 9/11. Don't tell anyone.
You just said it on the internet. Television. But yeah, drastic things don't last in our memories, and I think that's what's so disturbing to me about this movie is that so many of the things, if you actually break them down, that John Doe says in that car ride, you go, yeah. I think that his actions are completely out of line, but as far as his actual thinking, like, I find it hard not to agree with him. Not on everything, obviously. Let me be clear on that. But, like, I think he has this very well rationalized.
Yes, he has rationalized really, really well.
Which is really hard when we go through the entire movie and he's just sort of this shadowy figure that keeps, like, doing horrible things.
Yeah.
And to just flip the script on him like that was just a stroke of genius. And again, there's a reason that I love this movie.
Absolutely. No, completely agree. Though, like he was saying, he didn't necessarily kill innocent people, and he does kill Tracy, yes. Tracy. He does kill Tracy.
Yes, and she was innocent.
Yeah, like she doesn't. Her death wasn't one of the sins. Like she didn't die.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, you could say that she died because, let me see, the sloth guy didn't die from the fact that he was being slothful.
They made it clear that he was dying.
Yes.
And as far as the sloth part, that has been always been something that bothered me, is he forced him into sloth.
Exactly. But almost every one of these, again, and they mentioned this like for a second in the movie, every one of them was forced into this death, except for maybe the Pride one. That one was a little bit rough. She couldn't save herself.
Yeah.
But everyone else was either murdered or forced into this.
Well, yeah, but the reason I say specifically Sloth was forced into it is because the other ones were, at least really in some ways, they were already committing these sins on a
large scale.
Pretty, yeah. You know, you look at gluttony, dude's already really, really big.
Yeah.
Greed. The lawyer is well established as a greedy individual.
Exactly.
So, like, you know, all these victims are, again, they already are committing these sins, with the exception of Sloth.
Yes.
Where he's just tied down to a bed.
Yep. And the entire time.
Yeah, and it's like, well, he didn't have a choice.
That was not totally right. I feel like you could almost make a similar argument for lust, almost, but
almost, yeah. Some of that is probably cultural with, you know, the way that her particular profession is viewed.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that you can make an argument there, whereas with Sloth, I don't think you can.
No, you can't.
He's just a terrible person that he decided to turn into
a vegetable.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
Minus. I don't know.
Minus.
Yeah. Poor guy.
But yeah. And I think one thing that never struck me until I watched it this time through is how little a lot of the Seven Deadly Sin texts played in to the later half of the movie.
Yeah.
Because, like, at the beginning, it's like
right there.
Yeah, it's they're making references to him, and like, and then we hit the point where they find the picture with Gould's wife's eyes circled in blood.
Yeah.
And they go to her, and I don't think we hear about it almost at all for the rest of it, other than they do the library search on the dude.
Yeah, they do library search on the dude, and you don't even hear like the quotes for Pride, and you don't even hear about quotes for the last 2 deaths.
Yeah.
Spook.
Just strange.
Completely agree. So one thing, I think that, again, they did a really, really good job with foreshadowing, I think, in this. When Tracy goes and meets with Somerset, there was just something that clicked in me. I was like, oh, I like her. But, like, that's the, like, stereotypical an affair is starting scene.
Yeah.
You know, like, in most things, like, in a lot of different areas, this can be construed as something that is, like, could be disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, she's going to be the envy death. And that was really sad, knowing that the entire rest of the movie, especially since you don't hear from her after that conversation. You see her.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because Trinity picked that up as well. I did not. But I'm also notoriously bad at picking up on things like that. I cannot predict the end of something based on the middle.
Yeah.
I just can't. That said, watching through this time, I was really interested by how that conversation with Somerset played into the themes of sort of living life in an evil world.
Yeah, completely.
And so, yeah, it was really interesting, because this time, you mentioned this to me before the podcast, that she was a useless character, and so you knew she was going to die.
Yes.
And I honestly would push back against that.
Do it.
I think she is essential for a lot of the thematic things, even without her death. Just that conversation in the diner is a great way to sort of take apart she almost runs the middle road between Mills and Somerset, where she is disgusted by the world around her, but she isn't willing to give up on it necessarily. And she's more just worried about what is the future going to look like with this. And it's something that nobody else talks about in the entire movie.
That's a good point.
And the other thing that was really interesting to me, and this only works because she was killed, but the final scene where John Doe reveals to Mills that she was pregnant, it's really interesting to see the reaction that Mills had, because of the advice that Somerset gave to Tracy.
Yeah.
Because John Doe was able to essentially leverage it for more emotional power by dragging it out.
Yeah.
If Somerset had not told Tracy, don't tell him about the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting,
at least a little bit of foiling to it. Like,
yeah.
The primary reason that I feel like, and this could actually also be a dialogue on the world that they live in. Like, she was used as a plot device the entire movie. Like, she didn't, and specifically for thematic things, so not a plot device, a theme device for the entire movie. Like, she didn't go and further the theme at all. She only interacts with the two main characters. That's all that she interacts with.
Yeah.
And she's primarily there to let you know, hey, we're not here because I wanted to be. Really, like, there's something as well, like in Mills, that brought us here as well. And actually, it's actually kind of funny because I believe at the very beginning of the movie, she mentions about how she thought they'd moved to get away from tractors.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where Somerset wants to be going after he retires.
Yeah.
Thought that was really, really
there's a lot of
well.
really cool like narrative reflection stuff in this.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree, which I thought was really, really cool. There's a lot of tie-ins and symmetry.
Oh, random thing, and one that just, I think, makes the tone feel very strange at the end. Did you notice that it was raining the entire time in the city? So much. And then the very last day when they go out to... Completely sunny.
Did notice that.
Yeah, it's such a great touch.
The entire city is downtrodden from like everything that you see about it. Like there's...
Okay, so it's supposed to be New York. It has always been Gotham to me.
No, absolutely, me too. Like, no, I was thinking that this entire time. I was like, this is a Gotham villain kind of thing. These are Gotham investigators. There's way too much violence for this to be any normal place. Like, they just took Gotham and were like, this seems like a good setting. Yeah, I love it. Let's take it for us.
Yeah. And the thing that made that click for me this time, actually, I'd always felt like it was just sort of dirtier than it should have been.
So dirty.
But what made it click that I went, oh, it's Gotham, was when they're chasing John Doe through the apartment buildings, and they're clearly like decently like upper class apartments. Mm-hmm. And then there's the shattered window that he sees him through, and I went, oh, it's Gotham.
It's Gotham. I see. The amount of slum that there was like, oh, this is Gotham. You know, again, the amount of violence and like petty crimes that apparently like feel like they have some sort of underworld beneath them. Very and even the story element, you know, like there's so many villains in Batman comics that have a very similar ideology to John Doe, where it's like, hey, the entire system is corrupt. No one is doing anything about it. Like the best we can do maybe is Batman, but he's like he doesn't make any sense. This doesn't. What is he doing? We need to go and either take matters into our own hands or go counter to.
It's more in line with the new Batman. Yeah, honestly.
That's true. That's a good point,
honestly, when I watched the new one, I was very reminded of Se7en.
That's like, so interesting.
The Riddler is very John Doe-esque.
Very John Doe-esque, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're swimming in this movie, and I don't know where to go next.
All right, let's go and do standout scenes or performances. All the performances I thought were fantastic.
Oh yeah. I don't think that there's anybody in this that I went.
I still don't think Tracy is worth it.
Like,
she could be any other standing character. She didn't add value.
It was...
You could have had the conversations that you had with her with, like, random people off the street and it would have the same emotional value.
For the plot, it was essential that it was her, though. Because...
For the end.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely. Yeah. She was there so that she could die.
That's true.
And I wish part of me wishes they had put a little bit more, like, made me want to know about her more and more, like, care about her more, like, made her even more, like, personable, and maybe even shown more of her life, and like show her, hey, I'm doing my best to hope for the future.
Yeah,
she doesn't do that. She's sad, which makes sense. She's in this awful situation for her, and doesn't have a really good way out, and hopes that she can bite her time out of it, and then she dies. And it's just not fulfilling to me. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Gwyneth Paltrow did a great job of
very well.
Capturing as much of that as possible with her, frankly, very limited screen time.
Yeah.
She's maybe on screen for 5-10 minutes.
She's just there a little bit more if you count the dinner scene as well as the diner scene.
I was counting the dinner scene, but maybe it's a little bit
10
more.
Or 15.
But yeah, still very small.
Very little
in this over 2-hour runtime. But you do really get an impact of, like, you understand, at least to a certain extent, her personality. Absolutely. And the fact that she feels like a real person that just isn't in this movie.
Yes.
And then she's killed.
It's so sad.
And for someone like me who can't read
The Room.
Yeah. can't read the patterns. That was really effective.
Yeah.
Especially the first time I watched it.
For sure. And even to me, I was like, no, I know this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me any. I have a wife I very deeply love. I don't like this. This is bad. I hate it.
I wonder how much of that is affected by the fact that the first time I saw this, I was in high school and I did not have a wife.
Yeah, absolutely. When did this come out?
97?
What?
Yeah.
What?
96? 98?
What? Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a little bit more props now, actually. That was a tumultuous time in all sorts of histories. And knowing that it wasn't a 2018 movie like I thought that it was this entire time.
Seriously?
Seriously. I thought that this was like a more modern classic. I thought I had heard about it coming out. And that like there was some sort of fan... No. Okay. I feel a little bit better,
This was the movie right before Fight Club. David Fincher directed both of these movies.
Really?
He directed this one and then Fight Club.
See, I would not have guessed that because I had gotten the time span so wrong.
Yeah.
All of the... Okay. I feel a lot better, actually. I enjoy this movie a lot more now, knowing that it was made 25 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
It doesn't look like it either, though.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it does not seem like a 25-year-old movie.
Yeah.
I have renewed vigor. Okay. I wish I had known this going into this movie and podcast. We need to have a question on here. When was this made?
When was this
Just for
made?
me specifically. Because again, like they didn't use CG in this.
Oh no.
I had no way of really like all of their panning was modern. All of the camera angles were modern. All of the dialogue, the sound was awful. All of the dialogue was really, really well done.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Well, and
I feel much better.
This movie did define a lot of those sort of modern trends as far as like the way that a crime movie is shot.
It should be done.
Yeah. Almost everybody picked up like, oh, this is how we make it feel gritty.
Yes. I understand now.
Yeah.
Thank you, actually. I will go back. I've now enjoyed the movie more. It's a solid 7. And that
is the only correct number that we can give to this movie.
Yes, it is only 7. So, cool. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah. I feel a lot better about this movie now.
You're welcome.
I don't know why. I was like, why did you try and make a take on this movie that's been done so many times? But no, it wasn't. Because up to this point, it hadn't been done before. This is a good movie because it had been actually breaking barriers. And that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So, on this note, I think this is where we end.
Yeah. Okay. Not the worst movie on the planet.
Yeah.
I will now recommend it to people that want to watch films for their history.
Okay. There you go.
Instead of no one. What's next week?
Next week is It's a Wonderful Life.
Fantastic.
We are showing the duality of man between these next two movies.
Goodness gracious.
Have you seen It's a Wonderful Life? It's a Christmas movie, so I assume you have.
Yeah, I did spotlight for this play with 2 different casts.
Oh my.
So I've seen the play around 20 to 30 times. And the movie, all the way through, 0.
Really?
Yes, the black and white one, right? Like from the 60s or something?
Yeah, I mean, technically I have the colorized version as well, but I believe that's blasphemy.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I could probably quote you many of the lines, and I know the plot and the story by heart, but I have never seen the movie all the way through.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I also haven't seen this movie at all, like any of it, until 2-3 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's relatively recent for me.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
But yeah, we'll watch that one next time.
Love it. That sounds great. How do we end this?